What is the significance of the shape of the pyramid? Before the invention of cement, iron and the crane, the only way in which a high-rise building could be built is in the shape of the pyramid. What's the main challenge to build a high-rise building in those ancient times? Picking up the right format. How did they even know what format or know how to build it? They would have started with one format, and over the period of time they would have made several changes by learning from each of their previous mistakes and also from previous builders' building experiences. And slowly they might have improved their building techniques, and they would have started building pyramids in a right working format, or rather the simplest format. There are many features to it. One of the main features is the base. Choosing the right base makes a huge difference as the whole technique changes as they build further up. The very earliest builders may have built small circular base pyramids. The reason is thinking about it or planning for this is so easy. And the original idea of building the pyramid is to replicate the mountain. Even a child can create a model like this in a beach. But could this simplicity reflect if they build a real pyramid? Probably no. Why? Building layers in a circular base pyramid becomes a little complex. Did they build pyramids in this shape? Yes. The earliest builders may have started with this. Probably they may have learned few difficulties, and they might have moved on with the next one. How a circular base pyramid is drawn in those ancient times? With just the use of simple sticks and ropes. Just tie two of the sticks together with the rope. Let's say like a man is standing over here and another man is standing over there. All you need is just he has to go around and make a circle, and an approximate circle can be drawn. In the case of a square base or a rectangular base pyramid, this is the technique they have to use. One has to travel along the line of the rope, and they have to mark the lines. The rectangular and the square base pyramids are much easier to build when it comes to building the next layer. All they need to do is like reduce the space one block or even lesser than that. But in the case of the circular base pyramid, the effort is a little bit more. They have to mark the layer in each of the layer as like they did in the bottom layer with the rope and the stick or any other technique, and also they need to do it a little bit accurate. The square base pyramid is the masterpiece design for building a high-rise building. The materials can travel the shortest to the top from any direction, and also building the next layer is just a small calculation. But what do they need to build the next layer in a smaller proportion than the previous layer below? And what do they even need to build layers? Why can't they even build all the layers in the same proportion as like the base layers? If you notice the pyramid, they simply did not build a perfect shaped object. They always built a step pyramid. That gives us a great clue to understand how they defined a high-rise building or how they built it. The access for humans to reach the next layer of the pyramid is limited. The reason is that they simply cannot raise a block and keep it here, as there are no machineries or tools such as the cranes. If there are no cranes, what can be built? A step pyramid. Build one layer, then stand on that layer, leave a standing position, and build a layer which is smaller in proportion to the previous layer, and build further up. Build exactly in the similar way further up. There's no way to reach the top without standing on one of the layer. Whether they are using a small block or a big block, almost all of the pyramids are somewhat a step pyramid. Building this way naturally gave them some extraordinary features. Another important feature is the angle. While I was in the plane, I was thinking about how they might have built the next layer. Reducing the size in a better way in the next layer is very important, because that makes the angle of the pyramid. I thought the builders might have made some mistakes on that, and the Dawsher pyramid in Egypt is one of the examples which I found as an evidence. The height of the pyramid depends on the length of the bottom and the angle at which the pyramid is built. Placing the block in next layer as like one block less or even half block less, that makes a huge difference in shaping the angle of the whole pyramid. I went to a home improvement store and I was stumbled to find out that the pyramid builders did not use any of the materials which we are using these days, like the machineries, the tools or the metals. I collected some of the samples. Cement. Cement is one of the material by which we can create rocks. We can create custom rocks, and also cement can bind materials together. The tools such as the screws, nuts, bolts, nails which can connect materials, or some of the spring type of materials, or the metals such as the iron or the aluminum or any type of alloys like the steel which they are using in the buildings, or these are some of the machineries which we are using these days. The cranes, the carriers, some of the lifters which can carry and move objects. So how to build something incredible and massive without using any of these modern materials, tools or machineries? It's the design. The design is based on just one feature, which is the gravity. Everything whatever they have designed is based on gravity. And also there are other features to it. The quality of the soil. The design of the pyramid can override the quality of the soil, and also how they defined the base, whether it's a square base or whether it's a circular base or whether it's a rectangular base. That makes a huge difference when they build further up. And also how they place two of the blocks adjacent to each other. These may look like perfect shaped object, but I'm guessing that they might have not used a perfect square block or a rectangular block. They might have used irregular shapes of different type of blocks. So how they place adjacent to each other plays a major role in designing the pyramid. So if you have noticed, the pyramids which are being built in those days and the buildings which are being built these days have a huge difference. The buildings which are being built these days are hollow buildings, like a space like this one. But these are like one object. These look like one object where piles of blocks are being put together. Even though they have chambers in it, they have chambers for the burial, but it's still one solid piece of material, one solid piece of block. What are the other materials they might have used? Again, they might have used the gravity. They might have used pulleys and ropes, wooden wheels, and then they might have used tools such as the rails, so that they can reduce the friction, so that they can slide the blocks to the pyramid site. They might have also used stoppers while they are moving blocks from one layer to the next. So what is the architectural definition of a high-rise building or a pyramid in those earlier times? It is nothing but an object with a broad base whose width reduces as it goes further up, and this is a kind of form factor which they have always used, whether it's a circular based or a square based or a rectangular based. They have always used this form factor. There is a term called the center of gravity or the center of mass. For every object there is one point which gives balance to the whole object in terms to the gravity. For example, for this object the center of mass is falling inside the base, somewhere here. So that's why it is standing something like this. Let's say we change the shape of the object. The center of mass is falling outside of the base. So that's why it is not giving a balance and it is falling out. And let's say like I'm changing the shape of the object in a different way, and I'm trying to balance it out with a finger. And now the center of mass shifts somewhere here, and it is falling down somewhere through my finger. That's why it is balancing it out on both sides. So center of mass for a pyramid, that's the beauty of the pyramid. For each of the layer, the center of mass always falls inside the next layer. For this layer, it always falls inside the next layer. So that gives a great stability. So that's why it is standing through all the years with all the earthquakes and all the natural disaster. And also there is one more quality which gives the great stability. It is the weight of the block. The weight of the block plays a major role in giving the stability. And also, I have not looked at any of the close-up picture of the pyramids, but my understanding is they might not have used any of the bonding materials like the sand. They might have just placed blocks adjacent to each other in a way so that there are some gaps between each of the blocks. The weight of the blocks, along with the gap between those blocks, gives a great elasticity, and it can withstand any of the earthquakes for centuries. Not only in ancient times, even these days or the last 500 years, pyramid type of form factor is being still built. For example, the Eiffel Tower, or the tallest building, the Burj Khalifa, or all the churches all over the world which were built in the last maybe like 500 years or even now. And also many of the temples in South India, like the Meenakshi Amman temple or the Brihadiswara temple, they all have this form factor. They all have a broader base, and they always maintain the center of gravity so that like it always falls inside the base. What if this form factor is not followed? Probably over the period of time something may happen. For example, the Leaning Tower of Pisa. By looking at the picture of the Leaning Tower of Pisa, my guess is probably something may have happened over the long period of time. Maybe several years later, the sand quality of the soil quality may have changed. What if the same building have this form factor, the pyramid type of form factor? Probably they might have the pyramid type of form factor may have overridden the soil quality, and still they may have maintained the stability. And also, looking at the modern buildings, we can easily assume, or we can take a clue from the modern buildings, and we can guess like how they have built it. The modern buildings stability is based on the strong binding materials like the iron, the cement. They bind it together rather than this form factor. I don't know from where they brought the rocks to build the pyramids. They might have used rails to avoid friction, but more than that, my guess is like they might have used a great resource, which is nothing but the Nile River. They might have dug canals, and they might have let the Nile water in so that they might have carried the rocks with the boat. They might have used buoyancy. What if there are other ways to reach the top? Let's say they might have created artificial ridges and might have carried or slided blocks upon it. Creating these ridges itself needs some type of building technique, and also removing these ridges after the building work is complete is a huge task. And also they need to redesign these ridges for every layer. This ridge is designed to keep blocks on top of the second layer. To keep blocks on top of the third layer, this needs to be adjusted. I'm sure they might not have used this type of building technique. The reason is, if they would have used this technique, then they can place blocks wherever they want, and might have created high-rise structure of any shape. Blocks can be placed on top of the first layer. And for the second layer, blocks can be placed in any way, and a structure can be created like this. With the help of similar platform, even a structure like this can be created. For constructing a high-rise building, if a platform like this is not used, then a step pyramid type of structure is the most favorable option, and that naturally creates a pyramid shape.